Hello again, I am Blunty, and this is the spanking new MSI GTX 1080 Ti Gaming X Trio. And this has to be one of, if not the most brutal GTX 1080 Ti's you can get. Here's the deal in short. The board is basically the same one you'll find on MSI's normal Gaming X flavor. The backplate is the fancy-dancy RGB one from their Lightning Z flavor. But the cooler is all new. MSI's standard twin Frozo cooler is familiar, near identical across a whole bunch of cards. And I like it. It's big, perhaps even bulky. It's significant, and that means it keeps the cards cool without having to spin the fans up much at all, and in some cases, not at all. And that is one of the things I like best about MSI's Gaming and Gaming X series cards, the superb cooler. But with the Trios cooler, they've taken that plan even further. It has a lot of thermal mass, it has a lot of very careful thermal design in the heat pipes and the distribution of the fins and the style of the fins. It's big, it's heavy, it's clever. In fact, it's so big and heavy and clever, MSI supply in the box a support strut to help keep the card from sagging and putting extra pressure on your PCIe slot. In my case, I mount it vertically, so no worries there. But the wonderful overkill design of this cooler is more than just a mine's bigger kind of thing. It delivers something super desirable if, like me, you go to great lengths to make sure your rig not only looks sweet, but stays quiet, so it doesn't mess with your sound when you're recording or streaming. This card is damn near silent, even when under maximum load. In fact, it's damn near silent even when heavily overclocked and under maximum load. But we'll get to that. The cooler is rather welcomely not MSI's usual good-looking but rig color design limiting default red and black, instead stealth black across it all. Love it. Augmented by the claw/lights, the RGB strip from the Lightning Z card's backplate thingamabob doodler, and of course the RGB MSI Dragon logo on the side. All of which can be software controlled naturally, which I can't actually show you as I didn't have the updated compatible Mystic Light Sync software when I filmed this. But you know what, you've seen RGB lights change, so you know what you're in for. In-game, and while I usually bench at 1080p, for these, as this is a 1080 Ti, I've moved up to 1440p as the baseline, and with the maximum possible settings. So in its preset OC mode, out of box, it's over 100 MHz faster than the stock clocks of a Founders Edition. But that's just your starting point. Now I'm not going to really dig into a whole bunch of benchmarks and stuff here. It is a GTX 1080 Ti, and it performs like a GTX 1080 Ti. In fact, it performs just slightly better than many because of its high out-of-box overclock. What I really want to point out here, and why you'll want to own one of these, is just how ridiculously quiet it is. The overclock I got out of it, without having to goose the voltage at least, which I'm not a huge fan of doing, is just over 2 GHz, which is actually not that uncommon for a GTX 1080 Ti. Quite a lot, if not most, 1080 Ti's will reach that 2000 MHz mark, but none, in my experience, do it this quietly. And when I say quiet, I don't just mean, oh, the fans are humming and whirring softly, but it's not too bad. I mean, these friggin' things are spinning barely above idle. I mean, in a CPU-GPU mixed load like the Valley benchmark, the fans are at 35% speed only. And in the GPU-heavy Heaven benchmark, they're barely above 40% speed. And at those speeds, in this setup of 3 big slow fans with careful blade design and sitting on top of a double ball bearing system, you simply will not hear this card under any normal conditions. It is not technically silent. If you put your head right up next to it, you'll hear the fans. But it is for any reasonable, practical purpose, absolutely silent.
To put this noise level into perspective, I am now whispering about a meter away from the microphone. The card is currently running a benchmark. The fans are 35% speed, which is pretty much the fastest I'll ever get. The fastest I've ever seen them go during actual gameplay. That is quiet. You are now listening to the fans at 40% speed. This is the fastest these fans ever span during any benchmark I ever ran. They never even got this fast during gameplay, but just for the sake of showing you how quiet this card is, this is 40% fan speed.
So what you get here is basically the ideal GTX 1080 Ti. All of the power, fast out of box with great overclockability in a stealth black design you can choose to bling up if you like with some nifty RGB, and a cooler design that keeps it utterly silent even when under maximum load, and overclocked to the limit. I can't even tell you how excited I am. To put it metaphorically, it is a ninja with a grenade launcher. I actually recorded literally over 2 hours worth of gameplay and benchmarks for this card, but in the end, its raw gaming performance is what you'd expect from a 1080 Ti. It's brutal. There are a couple of 1080 Ti's out there which, at least in a comparison chart at Guru 3D, can push slightly faster. And I'm talking slightly, a few points out of a 10,000 level score. MSI's Lightning Z, with its bespoke Nitro overclocker-friendly overbuilt power delivery design and special BIOS and all that kind of stuff, is one of them. And in fact, it is the fastest one of all. But I think it's a pretty safe bet not one of them is quieter while performing like that. And that's the point of this card. And it delivers on that point. And it's awesome. And I'm now going to weep softly into my pillow because this review sample has to go back to MSI. And I'm going to miss it. I'm going to miss it quite a lot. This is really a very, very nice GTX 1080 Ti. And perhaps the best graphics card I have ever tested or tried in my machine. And I'm not just talking because it's a 1080 Ti, of course. You know, it's the fastest graphics card I've ever tested, doy. I'm talking about it's the best in terms of delivering absolute maximum performance possible from whatever hardware's inside, while staying quiet. I like it. I like it quite a lot. Thanks for watching. I am Blunty, and I will catch you next time.